Make sure. Yeah, make sure you put your phones in silence.
On do not disturb.
Yeah, do not disturb. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, it's getting serious now.
Doesn't have to be serious.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry? Sorry, one second. It's 3 p.m. Sorry, I'm just going to keep an eye on the time.
Okay.
Cool.
Kia ora koutou. Kia ora koutou waipapa tōmataro, and welcome to the 2025 AUSA Vice President for Undergraduate Education debate. I am Kieran Panui, the Editor-in-Chief of Crackham for 2024, and I will be co-moderating this debate. Along with me is the Student Voice Manager for AUSA, Mauricio Lozano. Kia ora, Mauricio.
Kia ora, Kieran. How are you, and how is everyone who's watching us on YouTube right now? Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to this debate.
Absolutely. I'd like to introduce the candidates for the Vice President for Undergrad Education role for this year. Closest to me, we have Matthew Lee, who is the current chair for the Students for Fair Rent and a third-year Bachelor of Arts and LLB student. Kia ora, Matthew.
Kia ora, Kieran.
Next, we have Pranel Gupta, who is an aspiring chartered accountant and first-year BCom student.
Hello, sir.
Pranel. And we also have Ryan Fraser, who is a UOA Science Ambassador and Physics Teacher Aide, as well as a first-year BSc student. Kia ora, Ryan. I'd like to firstly thank everyone for being here today. We have one other candidate who unfortunately couldn't make it today, but her campaign is still very much active, Tina Liang. And you can find the information for all of the students' campaigns in the description below. Excellent. I'd like to first start by asking each of you a question, just very generally. What is a student issue, the central student issue, for you in your campaign for this race? We'll start with you, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you, Kieran. I'm really excited to be here with all of you. One of the biggest issues facing students, especially academically, is the barriers to education. Look, I think education is a basic right that everyone should enjoy, but unfortunately, it is really difficult to be a student. Not just the cost of living, it's not just the cost of public transport to get to campus, the cost of rent, the cost of education in general. It is very expensive to be a student, and it's really unfortunate and really unfair that a lot of students have to take time out of uni to work maybe 20, 30 hours just to pay their rent, just to pay food. That is a really big problem that a lot of students are facing, and that's something that AUSA and the university needs to do better at addressing.
Pranel?
Thank you. For me, what I believe is the major issue with the student system is that lack of information, lack of material that we have for studying. Like there's going to be midterm exams. For that, I was trying to find materials to study. We do not have access to the past year questions or past year answers. That is also a very big reason that we are not able to perform academically well. The second major issue that I've faced is lack of integration between the cultures and diversities. We have a lot of different students from different backgrounds, but there's a lack of collaboration between them. I've seen that students from a similar background tend to be together rather than be with the other students of different backgrounds. That is a problem that we have to work on.
Yeah.
Right.
For me, I found, well, of course, one of them is that a lot of undergraduate students are actually fresh out of high school. They're still kind of trying to find their way in university. I found when speaking to a lot of my friends, classmates, of course, me being first year, a lot of them also first year, they're struggling to find all these curricular and extracurricular programs that they think would be very useful to them. So I'd say it's not necessarily a lack of material, but a lack of a way to find the material. Yeah, that's something that would be.
Nice. Thank you. I have a question for you all, and I'll definitely be back to all the issues that you raised. But right now, you guys are running. So the University of Auckland has 46,000 students, 46,000 plus students, active students on campus. You will be representing on the academic space, on the education space. as of today, on your campaign, do you think you are representing all the students within the university? And what are your thoughts about it?
I'll start with you, Ryan.
With me, I wouldn't say all. I would say undergraduate students.
Yeah.
Yes, us being undergraduate students, we're in the same position as them, so we
Yeah.
can find the issues they're facing quite easily.
Nice.
Yeah.
Pranel?
As Ryan said, we are representing the undergraduate students, and I've talked to a lot of undergraduate students. The thing is that this AUSA and this position that I'm going for aims for the feedback and the getting to know the students. So my campaign is that we get together and able to talk about everything that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Many people are not able to express their views as they're, I don't know why, but a little afraid. That is my campaign goes with that purpose.
Yeah, I think we can talk about specific policies later on in this debate, but I think it's really important to note that the direction that AUSA takes needs to come directly from the student body. Again, we can talk about how we do that later, but yeah, I think AUSA needs to work really hard to engage with all sorts of communities. Like you said, there are a lot of communities who would be really afraid of speaking up, even when those opportunities are there. We need to work to engage
Do
with
you
those.
think AUSA hasn't done it so far?
I think AUSA definitely has. I think it can be improved. And
Yeah.
it can be improved a lot, actually.
Which communities would you say have been left out within the past?
Yeah.
Which communities of students have been left out within the past year or so? That you've seen AUSA representing a student?
I'll give you an example. I think international students is a community that we very often leave out of
Yeah.
conversations. So my mum's an immigration advisor, so I've been in that space for quite a while, and it's actually really sad to me when I hear international students describe themselves as cash cows. That's not something that we want anyone to feel, especially in our university.
Have you heard anyone at the university?
Many
to refer?
people.
Staff
Many people.
members?
Oh no, students.
Students.
Yes,
Okay,
students.
sorry.
Yes, and it's really upsetting to me.
Yeah.
That's not how anyone should feel. And so I think, for example, setting up a dedicated international students hub or international students space.
I will hold your thought just a bit on that before
Sure.
you move forward. Pranel, do you think there are any specific communities that are left out?
I won't say that there are specific communities that they're left out. I would say that it's overall that's left out. Like the university has a lot of policies helping the international students, like you said. Like we have the buddy programs, we have the mentor program that gives mentorship to the international students for the studies. But why is it not working? I've seen a lot of students actually going through a lot.
Yeah.
Like yesterday,
Why do you think it's not working?
yesterday I went to a business expo for that for the university. That was of a lot of companies came there. I met a Chinese dude there. He was struggling with the studies because he was not able to find mentorship properly. I asked him why he did not apply for the mentorship. He was like, I did not know about the mentorship. Like, there's a lack of awareness about this.
Okay. Nice. So it's sorry, just to understand to Pranel, like it's across the board.
Yeah, it's across
all
the board.
communities
Yeah, yeah.
Are not
There's a
aware
lot,
of
yeah.
that. Cool.
I would actually agree with him. We just had a conversation outside on that table that we had spoken to a few new students, and a lot of them didn't actually know what AUSA was. They didn't know what AUSA had to offer to the students, which is, of course, a problem that could be solved.
Yeah. Nice. Perfect.
Well, this is a common thing, especially with undergraduate students, is they are not properly aware, or they're only very in a limited capacity aware of the full range of available opportunities that the university and AUSA has to offer. And one of those happens to be the Student Hub. And it's been pretty uncontroversial to say a great deal of students have found their experiences with Student Hub to be tepid.
Less
shall
than
we
ideal.
say. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I'm curious to see, in your campaign thus far, have you interacted with students in which they've talked about Student Hub, or if not, in general, what are your thoughts on what Student Hub needs to do in order to improve, and how would you advocate for the opportunities for undergraduate students to get better outcomes with Student Hub? Start with you, Matthew.
Yeah, definitely. As a student myself, I've definitely tried to interact with Student Hub so many times, and like I said, it is less than ideal. one of the biggest problems is, well, first of all, the line's very long.
Mm.
And when we actually get to speaking to an advisor, the help that we get is not exactly helpful. A lot of it is just, stuff that we can get off the website. But oftentimes we need support deeper than just, a blurb of what we can do. And so, yeah, definitely, Student Hubs is a huge issue. And it goes into just supporting students in their education journey as well.
Nice.
Honestly, in my experience, I've had a great experience with the student hubs. When
Mhm.
I just came to the university, it was only 4 weeks ago. I was facing a lot of troubles regarding my. I had to get a address proof. They went out of their way to get me a transcript and address proof for me.
Hmm?
I do believe that there are some parts where the student hubs are lacking, like they are not able to provide the perfect amount of information. Like,
Mhm.
but no one is expecting perfect.
Mhm.
We only need a little, like only they get us to the right track. That is more than enough,
Yeah.
I would say.
In my experience, it's actually quite similar to what Matthew said. There's a lot of referring to other people or other sources rather than actually going straight to addressing the problem itself. One thing he mentioned is you're speaking to advisors there. They actually, as far as I'm aware, they're actually other students there, right?
Yeah.
They refer you to academic staff or some lecturers, something like that. I think it could be a good idea to have people like the actual advisors there or the people that can change and help you with your task instead of just students trying to represent them.
Yeah. So, do you think that a good solution, it would be staffing the student
Yeah.
hubs with better?
Have
Like with-
people there that can actually help you instead of refer you to people that will help you.
Cool. Now, would you all agree with that? Or
I mean,
what?
it's not possible for anyone to address all of the problems.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
It's not possible for a professional of any kind to address all of the problems
Yeah.
anyone may face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
I pretty much agree with Ryan there. I think they need to be much better equipped, whether that's better training or just letting them do what needs to be done rather than referring
Yeah.
it to someone else.
Right. And now, if we cross that with your positions as education vice presidents, do you think that will have to do a lot within your position? Do you think that actually you as an education vice president will be able to support this from the hubs? Or this is more something that you will pass on, or that will be something that the president or someone else at the USA will be able to advocate for? Yes, you
Me?
go, please, Ryan.
I feel like because AUSA, it isn't actually part of the university, right? It's run
Mhm.
by students. I feel like that could be a bit of a barrier trying to change how the university functions when
Yes.
not the university itself. But AUSA does have a big influence over the university. Of course, we run the orientation days, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we could have influence over it. It's just being able to go there and do it directly ourselves would be a bit of a problem.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, the university has a collaboration going on with the AUSA, and the AUSA has a lot of influence over the university too. So we can of course change it. That is by getting more awareness of the AUSA. Like if you have more awareness, if students are more aware of AUSA, they will be able to change a lot about the education part. And getting the education, thinking about the education part, it is not possible to do it alone. We require a lot of support from others. We'll require a lot of support from students and the
Yeah.
university.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why we're here debating as education's VP candidates. It's because everything comes down to education. Everything has to do with education. And so that is exactly why that is within the role of an education vice president is to support students when they're seeking help at the university. The role of AUSA at the university is to act as a bridge between the student body and the university.
Yeah.
And so when there is a problem like student hubs, when there is a problem with that, we have to act as that gap.
Yes. But do you understand that you, as the education vice president, you might not be able to address that problem directly? You will be able to address a lot of academic things as the undergraduate education vice president, but you might not be able to voice those as part of the student hub. That might be out of your scope. How do you guys feel okay with it, or like what is the thought process about it?
Yeah, well, 100%. There's no point in trying to do everything. That's just not possible. The best we can do at the end of the day is try our best, right? But I think with the role of education's vice president, we have a lot of reach and a lot of power within the university, and we need to be using our positions and our power to advocate for students, even in small cases like that or much larger cases. We need to be doing our jobs properly so that every student at the university can have as best of an experience as they can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with everything that you're saying. I think my concern is that for the students who are watching and then they are making decisions who to vote for, I just want to be very, very clear that there is awareness around the student hub issues. However, I think the education vice presidents might be, it might be challenging for you guys to be that bridge. I think AUSA as an association, absolutely, and you guys will be able to be part. But I think as we brought the topic because we saw a lot of the conversations happening within the proposals. But having it as brought up as one of the promises or one of the proposals towards the students, I just want to be very clear that might not be the case for an undergraduate education vice president. Yeah.
Well, if I may, I think education vice president is a part of AUSA, and AUSA, like you said, is that gap, right? With the position within AUSA, 100%, I think we can bring it to the table. Whether or not we're the ones directly to bring that, obviously, maybe not. But 100%, I think we should be bringing that awareness to the table.
Cool.
That is where the awareness comes in. The more aware the students are, the better it will be, the better the strength will be.
Yeah.
The more strength the students have, the faster the university will have to take action regarding the problems.
Yeah.
Aside from being just aware of it, I think there is actually a way we could go about solving it. The Student Hubs is run by a student experience team, right?
Yes.
I actually, within science faculty, I do work with some of the student experience advisors within the Science Ambassadors program. I think we would be able to speak to them. Maybe they'd be able to help us solve that, actually.
I think the Student Hub is one team as the Student Hub team, and then you have the Faculty of Science, and then they have a student experience team.
Right.
So there are different teams, but I do agree that they all communicate with each other.
Okay,
There are definitely communication
of course,
channels.
we are
between
also
them.
students as well, so we do have access to be
Yeah,
able to speak to
absolutely.
them.
Yeah,
'Cause-
absolutely.
yeah.
Can you identify for me, off the top of your head, one important issue that your potential role as the Vice President for Undergraduate Education will have to directly deal with? And how do you think you could do that job of performing towards it better? Start with you, Pranal.
So what I believe is that my role as a undergraduate education VP will have me to do everything with the undergraduate students. So getting feedback from them. The overall feedback that I be receiving is how I will be acting on behalf of the students. I have an example of that. I talked to a student, I won't say the name. I talked to a student, and he told me that when he was enrolling into the university, he faced a lot of problems as he's also from India. When he enrolled into the university, he was not able to enroll because of the underage problem he was getting. For that, he had to wait for 1 month for that problem to be solved. As an undergraduate student right now, I believe that these are the type of problems I'll be facing and trying to solve. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right.
For this role specifically, I'd say departmentalization could be a big thing within AUSA. We actually had a conversation outside as well about this. There are some problems that could relate to the other AUSA members, like say the finance officer, that it could be more of a problem that they would need to deal with that would directly affect what we're trying to address.
Rather than being a vertical form, it could be a horizontal one. That would be better.
Yeah, I agree with everything they said, but I think as education vice president, we'll sit on different committees and we'll have to deal with really sensitive student issues, things that we generally wouldn't really hear about, but real things that really affect individual students as well. And I think our role there is to be the advocate for those students, make sure that they know their processes, know their rights within those processes as well, but also just make sure that they are taken care of throughout the entire process. And I think that is on a case-by-case basis, whatever it may be, academic misconduct, whatever it may be. But our job is just to be there as their advocate.
Can I ask a question? As of today, the university has put out different consultations around faculty merge, around the student voice policy, around curricular framework, around all of that. As of today, have you guys provided any feedback for those initiatives? And if so, what was the feedback?
It's my fourth.
Yeah. Do you go? Sorry, Harry.
Is there any specific program?
No, like normally the ones that I've seen in the past 2 years are a student voice policy, the merger of the faculties, and the curricular framework. Have you, as like we are talking about, you guys being the voice and providing feedback, as of today, have you guys provided any feedback to the university about these things?
Yeah. I'll start with the most recent example of the recent news that we're hearing about the curriculum transformation project, about small courses potentially being cut. I just want to say I think that's really concerning, to be honest. I'm an arts student, and I always say half my degree is arts and half my arts degree is struggling with course choices.
Yeah.
And that's actually a real problem that a lot of people are facing. And if these small courses are actually in danger of being cut, that's a real danger to the quality of education that the university is providing.
I just want to push back on this, sorry.
Yeah.
Are you aware that the courses that they are planning to cut are the ones that haven't had enrollments in a very long time?
Yeah.
And there is also a pool of 12 courses that will be added into that, so there will be options.
Yeah, so I think what we need to look at is there needs to be more information about the project. Obviously, it's very new, and I am aware of these things. And the only reason why a lot of people know about it is because students caught up on it, and they put it on Reddit, and then spread on social media, right? And that's actually my point, is a lot of people aren't aware of these consultation projects. And even when there are consultation projects like the faculty merger, a lot of the consultation with students happen quite late in the stage. And what I've heard from, for example, the Kai faculty merger, a lot of them felt like the feedback that they give was just not listened to. It wasn't important. It didn't feel like the university saw it as an important point, and it happened too late in the process.
But did you, going back to the question, did you provide this feedback?
I did actually, yeah. I did submit, I think it was the form that was sent out. I think there's one that's going on in the arts faculty right now as well, and I also did. But it was actually quite difficult to come across. Very few people did come across. I'm sure there are many that I missed as well.
No. I mean, I just want to clarify, and just overall, yes, you have provided feedback, but it's hard to find those kind of like initiatives for the university to seek that feedback. Thank you.
For the university, it's not possible to listen to everyone's feedback.
Yes.
They will have to decide on what, is better for the overall growth of the university. So as for the feedbacks, if I'm being honest, this is my 4th week in the university right now, so I've not put out any major feedbacks, but I do have put out a lot of feedbacks in my exam for the courses that I'm enrolled in. Yeah.
I do remember one thing, actually. There was a SSCC meeting we had in the physics department a while ago. They were talking about how general education courses are slowly being removed. I remember there were a lot of people that were quite upset with this, but something that you mentioned before, actually, they're being replaced with other courses that a lot of people they don't know about it. Yeah. So there's a lot of people being upset about things without necessarily knowing about the benefits.
The benefits of it. Nice. Yeah. And so you mentioned that you guys are providing feedback academically on the SSCC committees and also on the set evaluations and all of that. Do you guys feel, and I'm sorry if you have as well, I just want to put everyone in the pool, do you guys feel that feedback is heard by the university? Do you feel that the loop is closed?
I'd say it's a similar thing to what we mentioned before. A lot of the feedback and a lot of the information that we're needing is just being referred to other people, which is a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
What I think is that our feedback definitely gets listed there. They do listen to our feedback, but it is not possible for them to listen to every student.
Yeah.
And get like someone demands something else and someone demands something else. It's not possible for them to like choose between one.
Yeah. Hence positions like this one to go and represent the students.
Exactly.
Nice.
Honestly, not really. And obviously there are opportunities for the university to listen to the student body where they actually do, and I respect that. But if we're looking at things like class reps, for example, I think class reps is a really underutilized tool by the university that forms a direct line of feedback from the students to the university. But one of the biggest problems is, and literally, this is a question that I asked to a lot of people in the past week. Most people have never engaged with a single class rep. It's because, one, what's the point? Like, if I give them feedback, I'm not confident that feedback is going to change anything. And second of all, there is not really a lot of opportunities for us to give substantive feedback. A lot of it is, are the lecturers speaking too quickly? Please slow down.
Yeah.
That's kind of it, right? So I think then we need to utilize the class rep position much better so that feedback is directly used and listened to.
Okay.
I mean, even utilizing the class rep position won't do much if the class rep does not report back to the USA anyways.
Yeah. So that's one of the things, and I'm speaking this because the class rep program sits within the AUSA portfolio, and the class rep tasks is to represent the class and make sure that the learning experience of the students is there. So it's it's hard for the class rep as well to engage with all the students and also provide the feedback. But also, do you believe that students are engaging with the university to provide that feedback or engaging with the class reps?
That is one thing I noticed about class reps, actually. When I've ran for it a few times, I've spoken to some people that have mentioned to me they only run for class rep because of the certificate that they get given. They don't actually want to do anything for the class, but they want something that looks good on paper, which could be a problem. So maybe do something that would get people, it would avoid voting for people that aren't there to actually be a class rep. Yeah.
Today was the day that I got to know the class rep of one of my courses. Like, for the past 4 weeks, I did not even know about the class rep, who the class rep even was. This needs to be announced, and I don't think the class rep has that big of a responsibility, but this responsibility that they have impacts the future, impacts the, how they are able to integrate the students. Their feedback is what's important. Students do not even know who their class rep is.
Yeah.
This is a problem.
Nice. Matthew?
Yeah, I think I agree with both what you guys said, and Ryan, you as well, especially with the point about them getting the class rep role just because it looks good on their CV.
Yeah.
But when there's an actual opportunity for us to use the class reps to actually, like I said, have that direct line of feedback to the university. And so, we need to more clearly outline what the responsibilities of a class rep is, provide good training, better training, so that they can carry out that task.
Yeah. Well, you as Education Vice President, you will be working very closely with the class reps, so you will have lots of opportunities to improve the program.
So I'm curious. Under your portfolio, you would be sitting on a disciplinary committee in which you would be hearing, along with academics and other university staff, the specific instances of potential academic misconduct. I have read through, I believe, almost every blurb of every candidate of every role, and one thing that I've noticed that no one has talked about is artificial intelligence and how that is used by students and how it can potentially lead to very deleterious effects for outcomes. But what it also does is it may lead in the future to a severe increase in the need for advocacy. So first of all, I would like to ask the very basic question, just a simple yes or no. Do you believe that artificial intelligence has a place in the university learning environment, specifically as it is used by students?
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Excellent. Do you believe that in the future there could be serious issues with the usage of artificial intelligence for learning?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
In the future, how far in the future are we talking about?
Next year,
Next year.
when
If
you might
it's-
be you might be the VP.
If it's next year, yes. If it's far in the future, 5 years, I don't know.
Are you asking if the AI poses a danger or a threat?
Well, more of it's the question more of, will students be using it to such an effect that they will be trying to replicate coursework that will then get them into academic trouble?
It's already happened.
Of course.
It's already happened before.
So from generally, if I can synthesize from those two pieces of information, could the three of you please provide me with a framework for how going forward your attitude as a candidate would be to artificial intelligence for undergraduate students, and how would you see working in a disciplinary body, your advocacy be used across that spectrum? We'll go with you, Matthew.
Sure. Loaded question,
Yeah.
huge question. And I think we can talk for hours about the implications of AI in education. But I think absolutely our number one role, like I said, is to advocate for students and also to be that voice for quality education and accessible education as well. There's no point in denying that AI has a role in our future. It has a role in our future, and we need to learn how to use AI so that it doesn't take over our jobs, right? And so I think, yes, AI, we need to respect that AI is here to stay, learn how to use it. But within the few years, obviously, there will be problems with the university policy around AI and how people are potentially misusing that AI. That needs to be addressed 100%. And that, yeah, it's not right that people are using AI to cheat on their homework when other people don't have that, aren't doing that. And so we need to draw a fine line between learning how to use AI in a productive and a constructive manner and using it to cheat.
Excellent.
Yeah.
For now.
AI is like the modern solution we require for a question. We have the solution, but we have yet to find the question for the solution. If I'm being honest, AI is not that dangerous at all. It does not profess that big of a threat. Like, we already have a few measures that the university is taking for the AI counterparts.
If I might just point out, they have made measures.
Yeah.
However, as the candidates in general may know, they're not working.
Yeah.
And they're not working because the primary outcome of those measures should be that students are not using artificial intelligence in their work in such a way that it can be detectable, and obviously from that inference being that there was academic misconduct in place. So we do have a framework at this university. It obviously seems inadequate. What's your solution?
For that, the professors just have to design a question like that the AI could never answer. Like,
But it can give it its best shot.
And it's not
it
always
could,
possible to do
yeah,
that.
it could. It could give it best shot. That just gives the student a little bit of idea. Getting getting inspiration from somewhere is not wrong.
Sure.
It's like it's not like they're answering the whole question.
Right.
When it comes to the use of AI, there's two ways people use it. It's either they get it to do their work for them, they have no understanding of what's happened whatsoever, or I know some people, even I've done it once, you can use it to teach you how to do things, which is quite an important thing. I'd say the reason people would go to things like ChatGPT in the first place is because they have a lack of understanding on what they're trying to do. And so they'd go and if they're lazy, they'd probably just say, hey, do this for me, and then it'll do it for them.
Now, I have a question for you, and this is something that you will face as an education vice president. You go into a disciplinary committee, you present a case. You are presented a case where a student used the AI to complete an assignment. Should the student fail the paper, or what would be the decision that you would make as an education vice president?
I would say it depends on how they used it. Did they
If
use
they
it?
used it to, if the assignment was explained the history of New Zealand, and they literally go explain history of New Zealand.
Because, if I just may, you did point out two differences. The first option is always the option that people are getting, or just about always the option that people are getting pulled up on, because usually if you're using AI to find out about methods of learning or something like that, you would then be able to get that information, synthesize it into a response. But if you're just getting it to respond to the question and then sending it in, obviously that's going to cause some problems. So with that in mind,
So going back to the case, one of the cases, would you agree on the student failing the paper, or what would you think is a solution in that scenario?
I'd say if they know how to do the work, maybe it would be fine. But the reason they're here to study is so they can learn how to do the things that they're being taught. If
So
they're graduating with a bit of paper but they don't know what it means,
So failing the paper, repeat the paper, learn how to do it.
yes, if they know how to do it, they can have the paper.
Cool.
Yeah,
Pranam?
as Ryan said before, people go to ChatGPT because they have a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
And why do you think they have a lack of understanding?
Yeah.
It's because they forgot to put in the
Yeah.
effort. So it's instead of failing, they could just repeat it again. Like they should be given a chance to repeat the assignment or the paper again instead of just outright failing them.
Okay, so the students should be able to have the opportunity to repeat the assignment.
Yeah.
Should they repeat it within the same? They will be able to.
No,
get an A
they should be
plus as
given.
well?
They should be given some time, like different papers. Sometimes the lecturer should, like the cases are. There are a lot of cases of AI,
Mhm.
but the cases are like minimal cases. They're not
Mhm.
that severe. If they are severe, they should be given a chance before
Okay.
just outright failing them.
Cool. Perfect.
This is probably not the answer you're looking for, but
Mhm.
I would not be able to give you just an answer because I think every case is different.
Mhm.
We need to be able to look at exactly how and why this person used ChatGPT. So I'll give you an example. Like I said, right, barriers to education is one of my points, and a lot of people have to miss classes and miss tutorials, especially where they talk about assignments, to go to work, for example, or they have other commitments. If that's the reason why they're all of a sudden, they're struggling, and that's why they use ChatGPT and they got caught up on it, then we'd have to look at first of all, how much ChatGPT they used on their assignment.
But wouldn't you say that as a student, your priority is to study? And I do understand there are barriers and there are challenges into it, and it is expensive and everything. But your priority should be completing your assignments. You are told as a student of your assignments right at the beginning of the semester. You are given a timeline. You are given the expectations. Shouldn't your priority be completing the assignment instead of using an AI to complete it?
Yeah. Well, it should be the priority, 100%. And I'm not saying that any instances of cheating or academic misconduct should be excused. Absolutely not. I'm talking about the punishment of that misconduct.
Okay.
So what I'm looking at is obviously AI, if it is against policy, should not be used.
Yeah.
Right. That is. I think we're all clear on that.
Yeah.
But I think what we need to look at is why that student used it, and we need to be giving them opportunities to make up for that.
Yeah.
And so just saying that you have to fail the paper immediately, I think is just a bit harsh. In many cases, of course, that could be a very appropriate solution to the problem or punishment, but we need to be looking at it case by case.
And a very reality as well. I should say, like if you have a committee of 5 people who's looking at 500 cases or 46,000 of students, it is hard for them to go one by one and say, if you did this, then you will have to go back. Like the reality is like they can learn how to do it by repeating the paper.
Yeah.
So that could be, sorry, just wanted to.
Yeah. Just very quick point. I think, yes, I agree. Like, we'll be going through many cases, and it's difficult to give each case the thought that it deserves, 100%. But also, I think we need to be careful with just failing people. It is $900 or something like that. It is an expensive mistake.
Expensive, yeah.
And if they're genuinely really sorry about it, they promise to never do it again. Give them the benefit of the doubt.
Cool.
Let them maybe fail that assignment. Fine.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe give them the chance to repeat that assignment. Great. But failing the paper is so harsh.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I suppose this is actually why heavily weighted exams do have a great effect on grades, of course, because if you're going to an exam, you can't use ChatGPT. If it's on paper, it's not computer. If it's on a computer, of course, it's going to be firewall and stuff. So if it's a heavily weighted exam and they fail that might be their problem. But say it's like an assignment where they've done it at home, it's worth 10% of the grade or something. That's the difference between failing and then they got like 1 out of 10 on their exam. That
Yeah.
another attempt at that might not do anything.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So, as the undergraduate VP for education, although generally quite an academic role, you still are representing the undergraduate student body. And as a result of that, you will be on the executive of AUSA and making very broad decision-making processes as well. And a part of that is making the choice of whether or not AUSA will publicly make a stand on certain heated issues that students are noticeably passionate about. The drawback of making any statement, however loaded or unloaded, is that you may upset some people. And I would like to hear what your approach as a member of that voting body would be in that regard, in which you were told you need to make, should we make a statement on this issue? And if so, to what degree? And what kind of access to help would we provide for those students? So I'll go with Pranal first.
Even in the last question, I was about to say something that might have hurt a lot of people. Like, you can just cut it that. Should I just say?
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing was, why is the reason that students go for ChatGPT or AI? It's the lecturer's fault too. Like, they were not able to understand the student too.
You can't put the blame on a lecturer.
That's the thing. You cannot.
Each student they're responsible for their decision, and if they require further support, they should request support. I do understand the barriers, and I don't want to like come across as I'm defending the university, but I think the students should be held responsible for these kind of situations.
No, I'm not saying that lecturer should be blamed for that students, but it's just that the student was not able to understand what the lecturer said to him.
Yeah.
Like the lecture, he was not able to grasp the lectures. That's why he went there, right?
Yeah.
So we should, like, what was the question now?
So the question was about making a statement. So there are issues that are going around Auckland, around New Zealand, around the world, such as rent for students, which I'm sure Matthew is very aware, or
the Gaza conflict,
or
the Māori Pacifica spaces.
Exactly, all of those that AUSA as an entity many people have questioned that they haven't put a stand or put a statement on it. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think they should put a statement? Do you think, as part of that committee, you should provide a solution? Do we have the resources to provide a solution? It would be good to hear your thoughts on it.
We're talking about the academic preferences. So why would we put a statement over for something that does not affect the academics?
Because at the end of the day, you're representing.
But he's asking. No, but you're asking a really good question.
Yeah.
And would you say that would be your intake on it? Like, if it affects academically to the students, then we put a statement.
Yeah, we have.
If it doesn't, we stay out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, as someone who has said some very controversial things in public before, it is very important to be careful about what you're saying. Of course, as ASA as an organization, having a lot of people review a statement before sending it out would be important.
Yes.
But I think when you're making a statement about something controversial, it's better to invite people to discuss it and try to propose their own solutions rather than say, this is what's happening. If you don't like it, oh well. Yeah.
But before we move on, do you think that previous examples of releasing statements really has been like that, where it's this is the situation, deal with it?
Responses from students, a lot of people, they would say, it depends on what specific statement you'd be talking about, but I'd say there are cases where it's like that, yeah.
Perfect.
Matthew?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for bringing up this question. The single biggest thing I hear people talking about AUSA is that they're not taking a stand on many of the issues that are happening. And
For example.
Well, we'll get into the examples in a bit, but respectfully, I would disagree. I think as students, we don't live in a vacuum. We don't. We live in not just a community here in Auckland, not just a community in New Zealand, but we're part of a student community, an academic community across the world. And so specifically to do with Gaza, for example, we are members of a university, members of, like I said, a global student environment. The fact that there are universities being bombed and academics being killed is something that should worry us very, very much, no matter where you stand on this issue. And that's why that is something many students were very disappointed to see AUSA not release a statement on. I've heard the excuse that they released a statement last year, but things have changed, right? Especially when Students Justice for Palestine held that protest on campus. AUSA should have been there to support the students and to heed that call of calling for a ceasefire.
Can I just double check on that? With the Justice for Palestine situation, when the rally was organized to be on campus, do you think that if AUSA would have been part of that conversation and part of that would they be representing all the student community? Do you think that would be in the best of interest of all the students that AUSA is representing?
It's impossible to represent every single one, but as AUSA, we need to take a stand on things that actually matter, that really matter. And if I may finish, if we're looking at other student associations around the world even,
Yeah.
we are, AUSA probably takes the least stance on any issue. If we're looking at, for example, Victoria University of Wellington, they're very active on campus.
Yeah.
For example, they run a campaign called Steady Wage for All. They take a huge stance in there. NZUS, obviously, for those who keep up with the NZUS, is kind of bust now. But a lot of the other student associations within that organization have been taking a stand. AUSA.
But do you think that that position will represent all the students? Do you think that the position that Victoria University is taking, they are representing all the
Yeah.
students from Vic?
Yeah. So respectfully, I think the stance of calling for a ceasefire is should not be controversial.
But that's what they in the original, and I understand. Of course, one of your points is that they have made no statements about this issue in 2024. But irrespective of that, they did actually call for a ceasefire in the original statement that was made, along with humanitarian practice.
Yeah.
Whether or not you believe any of that was followed since, that's subjective. But at the end of the day, they did. So really, do you think that they did not use the correct language in order to express this?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I think the situation is unfolding. It is continuous, and it has gone much worse. I think we can all agree with that. And the call is not just for a ceasefire anymore. It's on for the university to take a stand. So one of the biggest things that the student body and a big group of the student body is calling on the university to do is divest from Israeli companies and companies supporting the genocide that is happening in Gaza right now. That should not be a controversial stance. And I think that is a stance that a lot of people have been asking for AUSA to make a stance on. If other student associations can do that, why can't we?
Sorry, I think Ryan wanted to give some. Do you want to add into that?
One thing you're saying that it most definitely shouldn't be a controversial thing. One problem with making public statements is no matter what you say, there's always going to be someone that doesn't like what you have to say.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that we don't take a stance.
Yeah, no, that's not. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like,
Taking a stance like Matthew's saying could be, it's like they can determine it as a bias towards someone. It can be determined as a bias. As a student body, you should stay away from biases.
Yeah. And just to close this topic, a lot of things have happened since that developed. Do you think making a statement, it is a priority over all the things that are happening around that student issues and the student challenges are facing? Do you think making a statement will be as part of the priority of a student association? And I'm just opening the question to everyone.
That would just increase the burden on the students.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would just increase the burden on the students. They already have so much to do. So
Yeah. So no.
no.
Okay.
Right.
if it's specifically on the Gaza situation, I feel like
Yeah.
AUSA wouldn't have much power over that. To be honest, I feel like I'm not saying it's not an important issue, but
It is.
I feel like the resources could be allocated to things that AUSA can have a much stronger influence over around the university.
Nice.
Yeah, in my opinion, a statement is the bare minimum AUSA can do. The university has, well, we can go into the specifics. There's no point in going to specifics right now. But with any issue, these are issues that students actually care about. And like I said before, we don't live in a vacuum. Things happen and it affects students.
Yeah.
Even if it has nothing to do with academics, it affects students.
Yeah.
Making a statement is the least that AUSA can do. But actually putting forth these opinions and these thoughts that students have directly to the university, who can actually make, who has the power to make changes to accommodate for these arguments, is important.
So what I'm listening is like maybe not make a statement, but gather feedback and take it to the university?
Well, I think we should make statements on things. We should take a stand on things.
Well, how can you simultaneously ask for feedback but make a statement at the same time? Because one seems to be, let's approach the students to ask for their solution or for their recommendations, and the other is, let's make an institutional statement to all of the students that we represent about an issue, and we take our opinion on it. How can you do both simultaneously?
Well, I'll pose something that AUSA has been doing already. AUSA supports the Free Fares for All campaign, right? I'm sure not every single person on the student body wants free public transport. There are many people who disagree with that as an economic model, and valid. That's fine.
I would disagree with that, and I would say that it's a big free fare for everyone. It's something that it will decrease straight away to all the students. It's something that directly affects everyone. But I'm sure Chanel just now has something to say. Sorry.
Yeah, like in the starting, Matthew told us about the transportation fees that students have to face. Like it's expensive being a student. Like if EUS is giving us free transport, why would any student decline it?
Yeah.
It's important.
Well, I think if you actually I support that campaign. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm just saying that is a position where actually if you talk to many students, there are many students who don't agree with that. They think maybe it should be 50%, maybe it should be completely privatized. Whatever that argument is, if I may finish, AUSA has taken a stance. They believe, and I believe with them as well, that is an important issue that students care about. But that is not the only issue that students care about.
Yeah.
There are many issues. And I'll get, for something that close to my heart, right? Students for fair rent is something, rent is one of the biggest barriers to education right now. But AUSA did not make a public stance on that.
Yeah.
Why? Because it might ruffle feathers with the university. And I think that is an unfortunate stance that AUSA has taken.
That is not 100% true. I would like to push back on that, but I want to get Ryan into this.
One thing about that bus fare thing we mentioned before, and I mentioned waiting resources is quite an important thing here. Of course, we don't have much of an influence over the Gaza situation, but that bus fare problem, I've heard a lot of people speaking about that. And like you said, that would affect everybody here at the university. And of course, if we're going for undergraduate education, Vice President, I think our concern would be more towards education, and having free bus fares, that would definitely affect people's ability to get to their education, which is something that we'd think about. And of course, everyone's heard about there's been a few financial problems with the university lately. It's very important to allocate our resources properly in this case, especially you're going for financial officer as well, right? Yeah, this guy, I'm sure he has something to say about it.
He's a numbers person. Just to wrap up with these questions, we are about to start a conversation about the fair rent and the rent. Do you guys have any strong opinions? I know Matthew will express his. Because he brought up the topic, so that's why.
Well, for university accommodation specifically?
For about AUSA, like taking the stand and all these conversations that we are having about.
Well, in terms of the rent prices, I'd definitely say it's kind of ridiculous. I know the rent price maybe a year or two ago was somewhere in the lower 400s. Now for, say, wiper halls, I think it's $530 now, $530 per week, which is, realistically speaking, it's not affordable for students. Like, you could get an apartment that's objectively better, like $300 at most per week.
Like, if you're talking about the university accommodations, I would be honest, it's really expensive. When I just came here a few weeks ago, first opted for the university accommodations, but the prices were like $490 per week. I got an apartment in Mount Eden for $200, and it's amazing. It's way better. So thing is, the university, the AUSA can pressure the university into like decreasing the prices, but it's not possible to get it for free. That's wrong for the people who are working there too. You cannot get it for free. You can just decrease the prices a little.
Nice.
No one's arguing for free rent. But I think...
Oh, actually, it was for our race. You were for our race. As part, I could see Matthew as part of your statement. And as part of the fair rent and everything, it was for our race who were working there to have like a free rent.
That's not a position that we took. And I can explain that later as well. But the question that's being asked here, going back to Kieran's question as well, is a question around whether or not AUSA should make statements around things, right?
Make a stand, take a stand.
And so, I'm not saying that AUSA do not support students for fair rent. Actually, they were quite active in supporting us, but on a more public space, that's where it was lacking, and where a lot of people thought that AUSA could have done better. And this is not just me thinking. This is a lot of people asking me, hey, why didn't AUSA make a statement? I was like, oh, well, they do support us. I don't know why they didn't make a statement. And so just clarifying the RA situation real quick. All we said is actually in America, a lot of universities, RAs get free rent.
Yeah.
And what we're saying here is RAs have to pay the full rent price. And that means that what they're paying for university accommodation is actually more than they're earning as an RA. We're just pointing out the difference and saying that that's not fair. No one's arguing for free
No,
I
rent.
mean, the
Yeah.
tuition fees for the universities in America is way more than
It's
it
way
is-
more. Yeah, like
it's-
the comparison
yeah.
shouldn't, like the comparison.
This comparison is not there.
It's not a good
like
fit.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I'm not arguing
no,
for
no, no,
free
fair
rent
enough,
for
fair enough.
RAs. Yeah.
So something, and just finally, I think I would say, and as a worker of AUSA, I would say that making a public statement on that matter specifically, it would mean that we as AUSA agree with everything that you guys were proposing, and that is something that there were some pinpoints that. Something that we were like, oh, we are not 100% sure. It was not because of we were afraid to break the relationship with the university, because that's our job as a student association, is to break that relationship, to advocate for students, to piss off the university.
Yeah.
So that is our job as a student association. It was just because some of the things that Fair for Rent were proposing as a solution, that is something that as a student association, we don't feel that it will represent all the students at the University of Auckland. And just wanted to push back on that. Sorry.
Respectfully, I think AUSA has not been doing that to the degree that it should be.
Yeah.
And I think that is, and genuinely, like AUSA is Auckland University Students Association. It's what the students want. And at the end of the day, what people have been saying about AUSA, and this is, I think, a very common consensus across campus, something that maybe university isn't aware of, but a lot of people have been saying that AUSA has become the social wing of the university rather than an advocacy organization for students. That is something, even if within the AUSA that is not how it is, that is how it is portrayed. And that matters a lot.
Yeah.
AUSA needs to be publicly fighting for students. Like you said, pissing off the university, what it is. You don't have to piss off the university, but you need to advocate for students.
Yeah.
AUSA needs to do that. And that's something that students have noticed an incredible lack of.
Yeah.
Okay, well, see, this is funny because I do like making the point that when politicians can't give very specific examples, they use the term advocate. I'm not saying you specifically, Matthew, but of those proposed solutions, one of them, if I remember correctly, has something to do with student levy. It has to do with, is that correct?
No.
Okay.
Well, you mean with Students for Fair Rent?
Well, no, as in, what is the proposed, let's say what is the proposed solution that AUSA would be able to advocate for to the university for students? Because you have two options. Either they cave and they lower the price, and they either increase the student levy or they decrease the quality of the accommodation. I can tell you right now, no one's preaching, no one's flexing about the quality right now. So it's probably going to fall down to student levy. And in general, the student levy is broadly supposed to be used for all students with regard to specific, institutional policies and also the services that they offer. So do you think it would be fair then to use the student levy in order to subsidize costs?
Yeah. So I think first of all, I'm not so sure why we're having a debate
Yeah.
about that. But actually, if I may just address that point really quickly. What Students for Fair Rent has been doing is trying to start a conversation about how ridiculously expensive accommodation is at the university. That's something that, first of all, the university itself has not really made clear. That's the first thing. So from day one, what we've asked from the university is just to be that much more transparent on how cost structures are, where they're getting their money from, where they're spending their money. We tried looking for it. It's not very transparent, especially within accommodations. And so all we're asking is we want to see what's happening, and we want a solution that works for everyone. Yeah. But also, I'm not sure why we're having this conversation in this specific debate.
In a specific debate. I would agree with you.
I'll move on to I'd like to move on to a completely different question, but actually goes along that line, and that
Just
and that has to do with our new gym.
Oh.
So you know, and that's what I love, because you do make a very, very good point, which is the transparency of this university with Coasting.
But just to not have this conversation, I would say the information, it is available. Everyone will be able to have access, and everyone is able to have access to that.
But there's
to
no
that
awareness for that.
information. It might not be awareness for it, and I definitely believe that all candidates here will be able to advocate for better publicity, better comms, but it's not just sending an email. I do agree with that, but the information, it is available.
Just to point that difference out. So the university obviously publishes their financial statements and all that. Accommodation exists as pretty much a separate branch of the university. And so when we, again, I don't know why we're talking about this, but when we submitted an official information act request to the university, they said it was commercially sensitive, not something that they can let out. We asked them to just, let's have a conversation, honest conversation about how it could happen. No. But,
I think we can just cut this out. But I would like to just go back to that question about the gym. If I could get,
We have, sorry.
okay, sorry.
Well, we just have time.
Okay,
We're done with time.
do you want me to wrap it up?
We'll just go through these questions.
Sure thing.
Very quickly, just to wrap it up. Sorry? Yeah.
New
Sorry.
gym, new gym, yay or nay?
Yes.
Yeah.
depends.
I mean, it's cheaper than most. It's cheaper than most.
There you go. So we're just gonna have some final questions. Agree or disagree? Very quick thought. If you can give us.
Start.
All good?
Yeah.
Cool. So, new gym,
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Like what, building it or using it?
like
Using
building it, like the existence of it.
Further. Existence.
Depends.
Depends.
Mm,
No. Cool.
yeah.
All good.
Very expensive.
New faculty merge. Agree or disagree?
Faculty merch.
The new faculty merge. Agree or disagree with that?
Is anyone actually going to wear it?
Exactly. I disagree.
Disagree?
Yeah. I mean, it helps with the awareness, but it's still quite a lot of money spent on a merch.
Yeah.
We're just talking specifically about the Kai.
Yeah. The Kai Education and Arts.
I'm not in that faculty, so I won't claim to know everything about it. But what I hear is
So agree or disagree?
disagree
Disagree.
with the way that it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. AI for undergraduate students. Agree or disagree?
Using it,
Using it?
agree.
Agree.
Depends how you use it. Agree.
Used properly, yes, but you've got to keep it in check, of
Yeah.
course.
Cool. Pronouns on student cards. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Agree.
If it's what the students want, then that's
Yeah.
what we're here to give
Yeah.
them.
Fully.
Exactly.
What's a good service the university provide?
Ooh.
Ryan?
Is Munchie Mart provided by university?
Is what?
Is Munchie Mart?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
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 Good what?
A good service the university provides.
Oh, like the vegan food stall that it
Yeah.
has. That's
And
great.
it's a
That's
service?
really
I actually
great.
really like that new one.
Yeah.
I think very underappreciated and very unfortunate circumstances, but Shads is
Oh,
like
geez.
a really
Shadows.
important institution on campus.
That's
and
a USA service, but
It
thank
is,
you.
it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm saying the university might need to support it to make
Yeah.
sure that it stays because it is important to our culture.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, a not so good service that the university provides.
Not so good.
One.
Just so good.
Student hubs.
Student hub.
Oh, let me think. So many of there. I'll go with the office receptions. Like, what do we call them? The information centers near the libraries.
The
Yeah,
student
student
hubs.
hubs.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
I think Kieran's expecting me to say student accommodation. I won't say student accommodation because
It's so predictable.
no, well, I mean, I think genuinely the people who are within that space are really passionate people,
Yeah.
and I think it's a really run program overall. What I want to say is Wi-Fi's.
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Oh,
Big.
yeah.
And just in one word,
Suffice.
as a general idea, what are your thoughts on the food, about the food on campus, the prices of the food on campus?
Like Munchie Mart?
No,
Any.
yeah, in general.
Oh, in general? Depends which store. Some are a bit up there, but then of course there's that vegan place. There's like
One word.
Cool.
Math. Cool.
Cool.
You go for it.
It's pretty expensive.
Expensive.
Yeah.
Moderate. Moderate, yeah.
Right. Perfect. Guys, thank you very much for being
Thank
in
you.
the debate.
Excellent.
Please do not cut that. It's the
can
first
cut
time
that.
saying
Yeah,
you
I'm
know,
just
Are
trying
we
to
out of
remember.
time now?
it's the first time.
Okay.
Kia ora, Genwai Papatomataro. Thank you for listening to the 2025 Vice Presidential Undergraduate Education Debate. I'd like to thank my co-moderator, Marcelo Tsano,
Thank you.
and I would also like to thank the three candidates who could be here today to speak with us. Thank you, Matthew, Pranell, and Ryan.
Thank you, Kieran. Thank you.
I'd also just like to say that all of the campaign information for the individual candidates will be available in the description of the video. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Oh my God, someone's calling
at
the very.
Yes?
About the gym thing that we mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the problems that we're talking about is the costs behind it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like because it's a university service, it's for the students, even if it isn't incredibly profitable,
it's
it's
for
still
everyone.
something
Yeah,
good
I
for the
think,
students.
Anyone
I
can
think-
use
and
it,
the
though.
reason why I didn't want to bring it in this debate is because it has nothing to do with your
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
But,
We were going on a real
Uh,
downstream
yeah.
tangent.
I know, that's-
I'm sorry, by
That's
the way.
okay.
I hope that you didn't think I was.
But I think the major concern concern around the university and around across the students is not the price that it will be the membership, is the price that is the amount of
total
money that
bill.
the
Yeah.
the
Yeah, to
university
spend
has
on the-
put towards.
Yeah, that's one thing I was saying about the bus thing as well. I feel like even
is a
if something
policy,
isn't
not a stance,
incredibly
like-
profitable for the university, I
Mm.
feel like there's still some expenses that are justified, even
Yeah.
if it's not profitable.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
If it's a service for the students.
Shads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not on, but shads.
Shut-
Doesn't need to be profitable as long as it's there. Sorry.
Yeah.
water should this be there?
Guys,
Yeah, a little bit, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I
Thank
think
you.
I'm just gonna leave the other pool of
Yeah.